Every country has its own mafias, including the well-known Italian and Russian mafias, and even the Japanese. Interestingly, the Italian mafia is transferred to New York, where it becomes much stronger and grows extensively. However, today we are going to talk about a mafia you might not have heard of, the Chinese mafia. In China, there are not just one, but over 100 mafia groups, and each controlling a specific region. Their method of wrongdoing are similar. Despite their diversity, they share a distinctive Chinese mafia style. Similar to Italy, Chinese mafia groups originate from families, and the key to becoming a member is loyalty. Individuals aspiring to join these groups must go through a lengthy process, taking years to complete. These groups don't openly recruit, but employ individuals discreetly, not for legal or high-profile tasks that could risk exposure. Those working for the mafia, but not as full members, are referred to as blue lanterns. After years of proving loyalty, without any weaknesses, these individuals may be accepted as full members without their knowledge. Other members discuss the person, and the group's leaders conduct a vote. It's worth noting that in mafia, the leader's decision is absolute. If members said yes, but the leader said no, and reverse, the boss's word is executed, and members are usually in sync with their leader's preferences. When someone is said to become a member of the Chinese mafia, they must swear by 36 laws. While we can't cover them all here, the first law stipulates that disloyalty to the family results in immediate death, symbolized by 6 thunderbolts, meaning being killed with a sword. Higher-ranking members face severe consequences for even the slightest disloyalty, such as a losing finger. However, if a lower-ranking member, like a soldier, shows a hint of disloyalty, they are likely to be killed. The main boss's name is Dragonhead, as the dragon holds great significance in Chinese culture and symbolizing high authority and importance. Okay, now imagine you have become a member of the Chinese mafia. What should you do when the Chinese government doesn't tolerate criminals? When the Chinese government orders everyone to stay home due to the coronavirus and no one dares to defy the rules, how does the mafia operate? You should know that the main income source for the Chinese mafia is not drug trafficking or weapons, it's human trafficking. So, what does it mean? How do they work? With China being a communist country and its large population, about 1.5 billion, living is not easy, especially for hard-working individuals seeking wealth. Many Chinese people facing limited opportunities at home, they have a very hard time achieving this goal, and most people get stuck in labor jobs, aspire to go to the United States. The Chinese language and culture differ from ours. In China, America is called Jinshan, and it means mountain of gold, and Migo, meaning beautiful country. Regardless, the Chinese mafia's sole purpose is to fulfill people's desires, not for their dreams, but for the money they receive. The mafia charges $14,000 to smuggle individuals across the strict border of China. These individuals are concealed in shipping containers and transported out of China, with their destination being America. While you might think they suffocate in these containers, but they are designed for this purpose, providing air and food. However, each container meant for around 20 people, lacks individuals' rooms or toilets, and making it uncomfortable as all 20 must eat, sleep, and use the bathroom in a 40-foot container. Once these 20 individuals are inside the containers, they are taken to a ship similar to the one in the image to reach America. Different Chinese mafia groups have varying rates for this service. Despite the high cost of $40,000, people in China manage to pay. So, how do people pay this money? Do they pay cash to the mafia? They don't give a cent to the mafia. However, the payment is not given directly in cash to the mafia. Instead, a deal is struck. Those who want to go to America but lack the money negotiate with the mafia. The mafia agrees to transport them but demands payment upfront. If the person fails to pay, these arrangements sometimes turn into loans that are given only to individuals with family in China. These families become hostages, and if the person does not work and repay the $40,000, the family in China is put in jeopardy. Interestingly, some Chinese parents urge their sons to go to America, putting the family at the mercy of the mafia for employment and repayment. Usually, the hostages are parents themselves. Most of the income of the Chinese mafia comes from human trafficking, but they also have another source of income. They operate here in the Golden Triangle, an area between the countries of Thailand, Laos, and Myanmar, also known as the Heroin Triangle. You might think the majority of the world's opium is produced in Afghanistan, but you are mistaken. Most of the world's opium comes from this triangle, with a significant portion situated in Myanmar, earning it the recognition as the largest producer of opium globally. A considerable amount of the opium from this triangle is transformed into heroin and transported in containers with Chinese mafias, playing a role in shipping them to various destinations. Most of the heroin from this region is sent to Europe. The story what described was about the large Chinese mafia. But as mentioned, China has hundreds of mafias, not all of them big. What do the smaller ones do? They often engage in extortion. If the payment is not made, they may resort to violence at an opportune moment. Another activity of these mafias involves underground casinos. Opening casinos in China is illegal, except in the autonomous region of Macau, which was previously under Portuguese rule, but is now under China's umbrella and remaining autonomous. It is the only place near China where legal casinos exist. Hence, these mafias establish underground casinos in China. Many believe the first mafia group formed in Italy in the 19th century, but it's now evident that the world's oldest mafia formed in China, specifically in Fujian province, during the 18th century. At that time, Fujian was a region life with chaos and insecurity, somewhat like the Wild West, where several often depended on strength or possessing a weapon that could be effectively used. In response, the people of Fujian grew tired of the situation and decided to form groups to defend themselves. One member of these groups becomes extremely powerful and starts forcefully influencing others. In a way, they become the leaders of the people, and others like them because they had established security. Although they used force and claimed to be right in everything, they had ensured the security of the people. Historians claim this is the world's first mafia. England, in order to paralyze China, distributed opium in the country. However, their plan was to use Chinese mafia groups and offering them money to distribute opium throughout China. The strategy was successful, making the Chinese involved in these mafias wealthier and more powerful. And England achieved their goals by defeating China. Time passes, and the Chinese government is finally collecting opium and opium dens in China, despite any misfortune. However, these mafias persist, as if one illegal method is closed for them, they turn to illegal avenues. Moving into the 20th century, the Chinese people are under significant pressure, with a large population and insufficient food supply. A government is not adequately addressing the issue. leading to occasional famines that claim millions of lives. During this period, some Chinese attempt to leave the country, with many heading to San Francisco, California, where a new business opportunity arises for these mafias. With the help of these mafias, numerous Chinese manage to reach San Francisco. Interestingly, today, most prime lands in San Francisco belongs to the Chinese, many of which they acquired after the 1906 earthquake. San Francisco was destroyed in the earthquake and fire, and Americans believed it was no longer worthwhile. The land became extremely cheap and devalued, allowing the Chinese, despite limited funds, to purchase these inexpensive lands. They quickly became wealthy as just 20 years later, San Francisco lands skyrocketed in value again. Returning to China, this situation persists until 1949, when Mao Zedong becomes the paramount leader of China, the first leader of the communist government. Anyone opposing communism was labeled counter-revolutionary and facing two punishments: execution or forced labor camps. At the same time, Mao Zedong described the mafias as counter-revolutionary, making it difficult for them. Many communists confronted these mafias to the extent that a significant number migrated to the United States. However, it didn't lead to the complete evacuation of these Chinese mafia. Many remain and continue their activities, becoming more covert and underground. Estimates suggest around 25,000 members of the Chinese mafia live in the various parts of America, with a power center in Chinatown, San Francisco. Chinatown translates to the Chinese city. The Chinese mafia, managed from Chinatown, does not engage in any activities in the USA. They slowly oversee mafia operations in other countries. Representatives of the Chinese mafia also exist, overseeing those sent for smuggling into America to work and bring back money. Despite being one of the most populous mafias globally, information about them rarely leaks. Reports from Voice of America suggest that the Communist government of China not only fights against this country's mafia, but also, in a way, uses them as a tool, indirectly providing funds to identify anti-communists in China. In any case, Chinese mafias have existed for about 200 years, resembling a tree that adds branches and leaves day by day.